All right, what's going on, everyone? Tournament Tactics NFL Championship round is here. We got the crew back together. We're keeping it going all the way to the Super. We're going to have to do a showdown breakdown for the Super Bowl.
We have to.
With the whole crew.
Please, I can't have this be it. I can't.
We're keeping it going.
Okay.
But we're taking a look at the NFL. This is a 2-game slate. I love a 2-gamer. We got a 2-game slate coming up. Chiefs, Bengals, Eagles, 49ers. There's some defensive metrics we're going to take a look at. We've done a ton of back testing. We've done a ton of looking at what wins 2-game tournaments, what approaches win 2-game tournaments. By the way, I talked to Statsational about all this, and he's just like, I don't even know, but I always win that shit. I have no idea. He's always winning.
Gosh.
How do you do it? He's like, I don't do any of that, and I still win all the time. So I don't know. But anyway, we've taken a look at everything, and we're looking at this 2-gamer, and of course, the crew with me as always, Bobby Millions, Shark Lab himself, and Burns. You are working on a new Millie Maker winning Shark Lab book, breaking down all the crazy stats and shit that you've come up with over the last few years. Tell me about that.
Sure am. It's going to be a lot more intricate than the last book I put out. It's going to delve into more of what we're starting to see in these current years moving forward. Years past, we've had a lot of different things occur, and DFS is an ever-changing atmosphere and evolution of a sport. I mean, we're literally watching it as we do it each and every week. I mean, it's amazing how evolved this DFS has become since, oh my gosh, 2012 when I first started playing DFS. I'm going to break it up into 2 books. Main book is going to be basically similar to the old book that I produced back in 2019. The second book is going to be more of a going back and doing several iterations of back tests on Millie Maker slates and coming up with a manual. It's going to be more of a manual type based book for members and anyone who would want to be a DFS member in the future to help you become a better player utilizing an optimizer. Optimizers are very difficult to utilize if you don't really know how to utilize them in the best way possible. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. It's going to be, I don't know. I'll see how many chapters in the main book, but yeah, it's probably going to push just like the last book, about 50 pages in length. So
I love it. So we're going to look forward to that. Let's not give away the farm, Burns. Got to make them wait. Got to keep them wanting more. Can't give the whole farm away in the first shot. Keep them wanting more.
I know. All
right.
Right?
So let's talk about this slate. And I think the biggest sort of factor here, even before we get into the players and all of that, I just want to get your general opinions on the Mahomes situation, right? I wish we had like a sports medicine doctor. I'm sure these guys are all coming out, but we have no idea. So we all saw the high ankle sprain. It's not a sprain, it's a high ankle sprain. We've all heard about high ankle sprains are scary. It's the high version. Super scary. Right? Normally, when you get a high ankle sprain, you're out for a few weeks. And here we've got Mahomes. So we've got off the injured list. No problem. Right? Today, not even a Q tag. He's fine. Or is he? So could he have miraculously healed? This is what I really want to try to understand. Could he have miraculously healed this high ankle sprain to full health in a few days? Is that what happened? Is it that Mahomes is just playing like, you aren't stopping me? We're in the playoffs. Unless you remove my ankle and my foot from my body, I am playing in this game. Which that's how every football player would be regardless. Or is it some mixture in between where, you know what? Yeah, he's, you know, they wrap it, they put some cortisone in there, give you a couple shots, you know, you don't feel the pain. What is going on here? And how do we know? Is there any indications? Can we look at line movement? What is it that we can do to try to get a handle on the mystery of Mahomes' ankle?
Burns, you go ahead. You can lead this one off.
From what I saw in that game, like he came out and then he came back in the second half of that game. In the first play where they actually forced him out of the pocket where he had to run, he came up limping. It's going to affect him. High ankle sprains are a lot different of a sprain than your normal ankle sprain. Actually, guys that are running backs, when they have a high ankle sprain, they're not out just a couple of weeks. They're out way more than that, because you can't actually put pressure on it to make that juke move or move side to side like you normally would. It's why ACL sprains and blown out ACLs actually almost shelf life a running back because of it. I see Mahomes, you know, he's not gonna be as mobile. He'll be mobile, but not as mobile as he's normally accustomed to. But I also believe that it's Patrick Mahomes, and he's going to go out there and he's just going to do everything and anything he can do to win this game.
I like this comment. Actually, wait a minute. There's a really funny one here. They had Mr. Miyagi on the sidelines.
Oh my gosh.
A little bit of that, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that is the story of this. There's two injuries that we really need to focus in on. That's one of them, right? And I think it does, you know, it's important to mention that Bengals kind of have had Mahomes' number a little bit as well anyway. Defensively, somebody in my channel in the Discord posted a really incredible video breaking down last year's championship game where the Bengals kind of made a little defensive adjustment and were able to pretty much take Kelsey out of the game. And when they did that, it screwed up Mahomes. And I'm going to say, listen, I saw Mahomes not looking that good. Like, if he's not going to be as mobile as he normally is, that's a major, major negative for him in terms of trying to win the game. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit surprised that the Chiefs are still favored. But at the same time, the fact that they're still favored, you know, the money knows more than anything else. The money knows. So with all of that being said, Bobby and Burns, and I'll start with you, BobbyWow, like, what are we doing with Mahomes here? Is he fadeable? Can you full fade? Or do you say, you know what? Mahomes, the field is stupid. They're going to now. All right, I'll give you our projected ownership. Let's pop this up on the screen because I want to show you something because I think you'll be surprised. So as of right now, and let me get here. As of right now, we've got Mahomes and like the same. There's no, they're all the same. So we don't have it where the field is heavily fading Mahomes at all. Now, I don't know that this will hodl by Sunday, but at this moment, I'm not seeing where Mahomes is necessarily going to be faded. So how do you treat this, BobbyWow? Like, what if this ownership projection is right and Mahomes, Hurts, and Burrow all right around 30%? Same shit.
Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind for me. One is this is a 2-game slate. We can't forget this is a 2-game slate. So for me, I don't fade guys like Mahomes on 2-game slates. If he had no legs, I don't think I would fade a guy like Mahomes. So I guess that's the first thing for me. The other piece is I think there's a realistic chance that all 4 quarterbacks could put up pedestrian numbers. Like there's a chance that we see floor games from all 4 of those guys, right? The 49ers defense, what if they shut Jalen Hurts down? You know, Burrow's had some shaky starts this season. His offensive line is still hurt. We know Mahomes he's injured, and then Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. So I think, you know, based on the quarterbacks and the defense situation alone, there's no way I'm fading Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's what it comes down to for me. Yes, he will be limited mobility-wise, but like Burnsy said, he's Patrick Mahomes, and he finds a way.
Burns, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in 100% agreement with Bobby. I really don't think he's fadeable, but I mean, if you want to pick one quarterback and go with it, then yeah. But you better be right in that situation. What we did see in that game last weekend was as soon as Mahomes got hurt, right? McKinnon became irrelevant in that game.
It's weird. He was, what to say irrelevant. He was on the field the whole time he was hurt, but they just kept him back to block because Mahomes couldn't run around, so they needed the blocker back there. But McKinnon got more snaps after the injury than before, so I think that's noteworthy as well. He actually was in the game more.
That's right.
But not being used because they weren't throwing to him. They got to carries, but they weren't throwing to him.
Yeah. Pacheco took over, and Pacheco's not a blocking back, so they needed McKinnon in there. And there were a couple blocks that McKinnon had that were just monster blocks. If he didn't block and didn't have those blocks, I don't know if you'd see Mahomes playing this weekend. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, McKinnon has to be a part of this game, some way, shape, or form. Whether he's blocking for Mahomes, so Mahomes can get it to Kelsey, or if he can get it to Juju or whoever, Kadarius Toney. But he's got to be in the game.
Tyler makes a good point here, by the way. The secondary component of all of this is the Bengals defense has really had Mahomes' number. And maybe, even if you're trying to, maybe the strat fade isn't about Mahomes' injury, although it's there, and I don't believe it's perfectly fine. But we'll find out more as we get closer. But maybe it's a little bit about just Bengals are really good at kind of keeping Mahomes in check. They've got a little system that they use that, they're sort of originated that concept of dropping extra players back on defense and just not having anywhere to go to Mahomes. And I think that approach works even better if Mahomes has limited mobility. Like the less mobility he has, the more you're okay to drop a defensive end back to double, Kelsey the way that they do, or the way that they did last year. But the flip side is, I feel like the Chiefs watched that game and they lived it, and they probably have made adjustments to how they plan. They played the Bengals and they would have adjusted to that, dropping all those people back approach that the Bengals used. So it's kind of like another reason potentially to be concerned about Mahomes' ability to be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate.
And I totally agree, but I just keep coming back to this idea that we could see, I like the under in this game, which breaks my heart, but I really like the under. And I like the under in the other game too. So I don't know that a quarterback is going to have to put up 25 plus points to be the nuts. That for me is the pillar. Otherwise, I would be all in on being underweight on Patty. But I just don't know that we see a quarterback. We might, but the path to QBs scoring 25 or less points is real for everybody.
Yeah. One thing I will share is that, a little bit of in looking at back testing and looking at different approaches that different players use to attack these tournaments, there is merit to the idea of picking one quarterback and doing just that. There is merit to that approach to DFS, to approach to attacking tournaments, effectively saying, I probably have a less than 1 in 4 chance of winning this tournament straight up. So if I take a 1 in 4 shot on a quarterback and just build all around it, and I do that all the time, eventually when I'm right, I'm going to give myself a much, much higher chance of either winning the tournament or getting a top 10 finish. And I will say in back testing, when I tried that style of approach, you're in the top 10 a lot. And, you can win it, but you're definitely in the top 10. You're finishing in the money quite more frequently than you would if you weren't doing something like that. So I do think it's really interesting. One of the things we talk about, for the 20 max guys, is just take one quarterback, pick one. And I'm more convinced than ever that is the way to go for 20 max guys. And we'll see about the 150. But so getting back in, so we talked a little bit about Mahomes. So let's continue on with the quarterback discussion. And again, Brock Purdy is going up against the Eagles' number 2 ranked pass defense. This is not a good matchup for Purdy at all. As far as the numbers go, Eagles are a much, much more attackable team via the run than the pass. Again, they are number 2 overall against the pass in general and at limiting opposing quarterback scoring. So with that being said, the Eagles at home, horrifying environment for a young quarterback. Although, credit to Purdy, kid is cool as a cucumber. Guy has looked great. No, haven't seen any chink in the armor as of yet. But that being said, can we safely Purdy? Now, Bobby, this comes back to what you just said. You said, well, it's possible that none of these quarterbacks put up a 30. If none of them are going to put up a 30, and if we have another mirror image of last week where winning quarterback puts up a 20, and all the quarterbacks fall between 15 and 20 fantasy points, which seems crazy on a slate that has Jalen Hurts on it, but who knows, right? What if and Mahomes is on it and Burrow? Okay, but it happens. At that point, then the savings on Purdy might end up having been what is the ultimate play. But is there another scenario where Purdy, in the most difficult matchup possible for a quarterback on the road, Philadelphia, those fans alone, they'll intimidate you?
Yeah.
Is there a scenario where Purdy, like, do we need to waste lineups on Brock Purdy when the obvious path for San Francisco is a run-heavy approach against an Eagles defense that isn't as good against the run than it is against the pass?
Yeah, I mean, I will personally be fading Brock Purdy. That's just where I'm at. I'd rather, 12% ownership can be spread among the other 3 guys for me. But absolutely, I mean, we talked about it multiple times already. We could see low-scoring QBs this week. And because the salary 2K salary difference, 2,300 between him and Mahomes on DraftKings, that's big. That's a big difference. So yes, we could absolutely see it. I don't see it happening, but it's a realistic possibility. My thought is to get different elsewhere, but Geek, it's at least realistic, I think.
It's not out of the realm, but again, Purdy, not a running quarterback, Burns. I know the Shark Lab does not like road underdog quarterbacks against the number 2 defense in the league.
No, not in the main slate games where this is a possibility of a game, right? But we're dealing with 2-game sample size here, so we got to. I don't know if I get to Purdy or not. It's a really tough ask for him. He's Mr. Irrelevant draft pick, having the season of his life. He's 7-0. He's got to win this game. For him to actually come in and play next season and be the starter for San Francisco, he's got to win this game.
He's got to.
Yeah, he. It's been known. Like there is talks out there that he has to win this game, get the Niners in the Super Bowl, whether he wins or loses the Super Bowl, because they're still on the fence about Trey Lance, whether or not they're going to keep him or not. There's talks of trading him and Trey Lance being, because Purdy has actually came into relevancy and he's actually commanding the offense in the way that when Trey Lance was in there, he wasn't commanding it.
He hasn't had much opportunity.
Yeah.
I was out there for like three quarters of a game, and that was it. We haven't seen anything. I mean, listen, in the dynasty discussion, to bring it backwards in the dynasty discussion, right? Brock Purdy right now, it's a thing, and Trey Lance, and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen here. And I think it's a mystery. What I expect will happen, regardless of if they win the Super Bowl, then they're just going to anoint this kid. But assuming that didn't happen, what'll happen is they're just going to go into training camp with an open competition next year. Like, both guys will be on the team, and then it's going to be like a mess all of next year if you're trying to figure that thing out. But all right, so let's bring it around. But the matchup is bad, and it's not getting better.
It's not easy on the other side either. San Francisco is a beast of a defense, and I don't have good feelings about Jalen Hurts in this game either. I mean,
I would say this: San Francisco is a very good defense against the run. They're the number 1 team in the league at stopping the run, and for that reason, when I look at that, I say, well, if the Eagles are going to be scoring, they have to do it via the pass, and fine by me. They have all the weapons to get it done.
Yeah.
And Hurts can scramble around to the point where I don't think a great run defense affects the fact that there's a running quarterback. I don't think those two things are supremely linked. Like a running quarterback outpaces. I'll give you an example. Do you remember a couple of years ago when the Patriots were like this rush defense that you could not fuck with? They were the best. The Patriots go to Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson has like the game of his life, running around all over the place. Or Baltimore goes to New England, and Lamar Jackson has one of those 40-point crazy Lamar Jackson games. And you're like, wait, this was the number one rush defense. What the hell happened here? Well, being a great rush defense just didn't matter. Lamar Jackson is just different, and it messed him up. And sometimes having that incredible rushing quarterback messes up what is already a great defense. So I am not getting scurred off of Jalen Hurts by any stretch.
Yeah.
He's still Jalen Hurts.
Just a little interesting tidbit for me was the 49ers really haven't played a running quarterback all season. They played Justin Fields in week 1. He beat them. But the rest of the season, I think Marcus Mariota was like the one guy that could run the football that the 49ers play. So it's going to be a different matchup for them. Right.
And by the way, he had a good game.
He had a good game.
Come on.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at is the 49ers haven't played a legitimate running QB yet. So I think that's at play too.
Yeah, I'm not getting scared off of Jalen Hurts.
No.
But when you look at this game, I think that defense does get me the hell off of Miles Sanders. I think I'm going to full fade Miles Sanders is that guy that just
the entire Philly running back situation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just an ugly situation anyway, like a 40% yardage and touchdowns back. That's going to be supposedly, and I'm pointing at my ownership screen, 30% owned.
Yeah.
I'm not playing that. Like if it was 10% owned, yeah, but like I just play it for the ownership leverage. But if he's going to be well owned, which he will be because it's just 2 games, I just as soon say, you know what, I'll apply that 30% exposure elsewhere. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and how I like this game is I actually love Devontae Smith, Goddard, and AJ Brown all together in stacks with Hurts. I love all 3 of them together.
I've already built a lineup like that.
It's perfect.
Or throw a Gainwell in there. BobbyWow, can Gainwell do it again this week? Or are we putting the call out?
I think he can. I'm not as confident this week as I was last week, but what I will say is this. I think the Eagles got a taste of what an explosive running back looks like. And if Miles Sanders struggles, which I think he will, I would not be surprised to see the Eagles and Sirianni go right back to Kenneth Gainwell. He can provide a spark. I think he's a better pass catcher. He's more explosive than Sanders. So yeah, I think the path is there. And if you're going to fade Sanders, like I'm going to do the same thing. I'm gonna use that to get leverage on Kenny Gainwell. So that's where I'm going with it. I think there's a legitimate path for him again this week.
I like it, and just taking a look at the running back position, there's a lot of mysteries here, guys. A lot of mysteries, and so Kenny Gainwell, why not? It's just like we said this last week. I want to mention actually before I even we start to talk about the running back position. I want to mention that in back testing, I saw some interest, not just back testing, but looking at previous winning lineups. I did see some interesting, say, trends or weird things that go on. Like, for example, there was a slate where it was Burrow, Hurst, and Mixon without any of the Burrow wide receivers, like without a second wide receiver. Right. And Mixon, you would think, is negatively correlated with Burrow. And I saw stuff like that a lot where just randomly, like a negative correlated running back would be the second part of a stack. And what it tells me is maybe overruling things isn't how you're going to win a 2-game slate. Like you kind of almost have to play it a little different. Like obviously everybody's going to want to stack QB +2. Like as soon as you're starting with Burrow, you're like, all right, let me click on Chase. Let me click on one of Higgins or Hurst or Boyd. You're kind of like doing that. But what if we kind of go different and he just went weird with it and went like Burrow, Mixon, Chase, and didn't even use the other guys? So I did notice some interesting sort of oddballs. And Steve wants to repeat of the, yeah, I mean, what he's saying is just Hurts with everybody. Hurts with Goddard, Smith, and Brown, all three. Triples.
Yeah. The reason why is that San Francisco they're 26 against wide receivers on the year. And they're not very good against tight ends either. So Goddard could have a heyday in this matchup against San Francisco. And it's been the way that you beat San Francisco this year is through the air. They're 18th in fantasy points against for tight ends and 26th again fantasy points against. So how I'm going to attack it is I'm going to attack it with all three of those guys. And if Gainwell makes it in from the DS as a fourth player in that lineup, so be
I'll allow. Yeah, I'll allow. Right. So, All right, let's get back to talking about the running backs on the slate because, again, I think once again, just like last week, BobbyWow with the Gainwell call. We also had talked about P. Ryan, who I thought had a pretty decent game last week as well. Five targets, and I want to keep that in mind. P. Ryan, 5 targets, 5 receptions. That's all you need at a $4,500 player. If you got 5 targets, that'd be spectacular. Regardless of what he scored, it's not relevant. It's the volume that was relevant. So let's start with the 49ers because the Eagles, you cannot pass against this Eagles team. You've got to attack them via the run. The DVOA numbers, massively different. Eagles built to stop the pass, number 2 overall, but they're much like the 49ers. It's like the opposite, right? You want to attack the Eagles via the run. So we've got Christian McCaffrey with a calf issue. Now, my question for you guys is this. Last week, we saw McCaffrey kind of come out of the game in the second half. Eli Mitchell took over and was on the field a lot more. Of course, that was a bit of a blowout. So my question is, was McCaffrey legitimately hurt to where he couldn't come back in the game? Or what do we suspect? Because we don't know. Or was it just like, hey, we're kicking ass, we're taking names, let's get Eli in there, let's not risk. The guy tweaked the old calf, let's not take chances. What do you think was going on there? Can we trust McCaffrey to make it through a healthy game here? Because if we can, obviously McCaffrey, even at 8K, is a very, very a good play, a great play.
Yeah, I think we can trust McCaffrey here, especially if the game's going to be close, which I think it should be. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about the injury. I think the 49ers are going to play McCaffrey, and he's a guy that will run himself into the ground. He's not going to come out of the game by his own choice. So I have no issues going to McCaffrey. I think he is far and away the best running back on the slate. It's not close. So I'm all aboard the CMC train.
We love CM Sizzles. We love him. All right. So alongside McCaffrey, Eli Mitchell also got the calf issue or some sort of injury situation floating around. So we got to keep an eye on that. One of the things I was thinking about in my notes was just like, picture McCaffrey aggravates the calf, has to come out of the game. Like he comes up limping. Dude has a history of this. And then Eli Mitchell comes in and just owns this slate. Could happen. But then you're all excited that you got Eli Mitchell, but then he gets hurt because that motherfucker gets hurt all the time too. And you're like, yeah, I won $1 million. Oh no, it's gone. That's how I saw that.
It's a rookie running back behind Mitchell, isn't it?
It's a big nothing, brother. Yeah, I think Jordan Mason. It's not a good scene. Even my boy Tyrion David Price hasn't even gotten active on the roster all year. So I just wanted to mention that scenario because then it goes down. You're like, oh, we got this, and then he gets hurt too because it's Elijah Mitchell and he gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so that could happen. But let's talk through the rest of these guys. So I think Joe Mixon, I think, is a very, very good play. I haven't been excited about Mixon most of the season. Not somebody that I've been on a whole lot, but he definitely came through for us last week. And, I think he's probably the safest bet of all of these guys. Good matchup against KC. Nothing not to like here.
No, he's fine. He's a good play. They fed him last week, which is an encouraging sign for Mixon. So I agree.
In terms of the projected ownerships, about 50% each for McCaffrey and Mixon here, almost 50% for McKinnon, understandably. Now, note the math, right? I don't think most people are going to want to start 3 running backs on this particular slate. You might do it a little bit, but probably not that much because these running backs are just unexciting options, especially, after you get past these top 3. So this is, we have 200% to fill, 50, 100, 150, 200, 220. So maybe 20% running back in the flex. If I'm full fading Miles Sanders, where should I put that exposure, BobbyWow?
If you're fading Miles Sanders, like I am as well, I'm going to be spreading that exposure to Kenny Gainwell and Samaje Perine. That's where I'm going with it. I think the running back position is potentially where you can differentiate the best. And man, Perine and Gainwell are going to come in at such low ownership. So I like spreading it to those guys. And then really intrigued, Burns, you mentioned it earlier, the Pacheco piece where the Chiefs, they ran the football in the second half and he looked good. The Chiefs had success running against the Bengals when they played earlier this season. I think they just watched the Bills, who refused to establish the run and got smoked because of it. They ran the ball 11 times, not enough. So I think the Chiefs come out. I think they establish the run. That's their path to victory. And I think that could lead to an interesting game for Pacheco, who will be less than 20%. So those 3 guys, that's where I'm getting my leverage here.
I almost want to mention, I got to mention this about the Bills. The Bills, an entire season, refusing to sort of really get their running game going at all. A team that's in the Northeast, in a weather state, cold, where teams that were built in these cold weather stadiums were always built to run and play some defense, right? These snow games, you got to run the football. And the Bills fucked around. They didn't do it. And you know what happened? They found out. I just wanted to say fuck around, found out, as you know. I just wanted to bring that to this because I love that little video thing that's going around. So they fucked around and they found out. Got to have a running game if you're going to be in Buffalo. Bijan, welcome to Buffalo.
I was just going to say, I think, they're going to go after a guy that I don't know if James Cook is the right guy for them. I don't know. Or they got to use him more and get rid of Singletary.
He's tiny. I said this on the Gargano. This is a little man. You can't use 190-pound James Cook as that's not the guy. He's 190 pounders, maybe 195. You cannot lean on a guy like that. They need a 220-pound man that can run in the snow. All right, That was last week. Who cares? Sorry, it was more about the fuck around, find out thing. All right, so getting back to the running back, Isaiah Pacheco, 17%. So do we think? So there's 2 schools of thought here, and I'm still a little confused. So on one school of thought is an immobile Mahomes needs McKinnon in the game to block for him. The other school of thought is, well, an immobile Mahomes, maybe they'll bring in Pacheco and try to establish the run. The third school is maybe Mahomes isn't even immobile and he's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, there's also another school of thought is they go with 2 tight end sets more to provide more blocking for Mahomes, and then they run.
That's the Pacheco running script.
Pacheco. Yep. They bring in Gray along with Kelsey, and then they do away with, because I think Mecole Hardman he's not out for this game. At least he's not as of now.
He's playing. He's going to play.
So
he's going to play. But listen, let's get into that wide receiver. We'll talk about their wide receivers because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's either Tony or MVS is going to be irrelevant in this game. And Juju might actually, he dudded last week, so he might actually be good this week. So KC is such an enigma in how they do things week to week. They're never the same.
Geek, I actually think in this two of the scenarios you mentioned, it's better for Pacheco. You said either they could commit to Pacheco on the run or McKinnon's on the field more to block. I think that limits McKinnon's upside. We saw him catch, I don't know, was it 0 passes in the second half? He was
0.
He was out there a bunch, didn't catch a pass because he was blocking. So look, I think the upside of Pacheco is increased here, even as a pass catcher. I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 or 4 targets go to him. I think he usually ends up at 1 or 2, but I think we see a couple extras. So yeah, I like it.
I think going down the rest of the list, you can unfriend, use check, Mason. Ronald Jones was not even active last week. Boston, this is not the Giants, guys. Boston Scott scores against the Giants. And we're going to work with this group, and then we're going to be very careful with Mr. Sanders. When we say fade, just to be clear on that, Geek, you said fade Sanders, then I saw you won the tournament with Sanders in your lineup. When I say fade, what I mean is like we're looking at field level exposures. It might mean unfriend you, but it might mean I just want to go significantly below the field on a player to where, if the field is going to be 30, 35% Miles Sanders and I go 5-10% just to have a couple shares, whatever. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, again, don't worry about Clyde. Don't worry about that. He's not going to do anything in this game. I feel the same way about Hard Man. Listen, that's a hard man, and I like him, but not coming off an injury, not rushing your way back for a playoff game. Those things are not good scenes at all. Just ignore. But with that being said, we can talk a little bit about the wide receiver position and sort of tie that into the quarterbacks just a bit here. So if this was a main slate, Burns, what would the Shark Lab be screaming about? Which of these wide receivers would it be all over? 12 games to choose from. Main slate, would any of these wide receivers be popping in the Shark Lab?
Yeah, the Philly wide receivers all day long. It's because San Francisco is not good versus wide receivers. So I will have, I think I lower my exposure to Chase so I can get more exposure to Smith and Brown this week. I think I'm just going to lay it on the mantle that way. I think Chase can have a great game, but I think AJ Brown could have that potential to have 25, 30-point game this week.
I think Chase could put up a 50 spot this week.
He could too. Yep.
It could happen. Smith and Brown. So I kind of, in breaking down the wide receivers, I think there are obvious ones, right? There's a reason why these guys are super high owned. Chase has, one interesting thing this season, the Chiefs don't have an answer for Chase. They don't have a cornerback that is going to shut a Jamar Chase down. They don't have that player on their team. They just don't. But one thing that's been interesting is, Chase has gotten double-digit targets almost every week. Chase is definitely that guy that he does a high floor too. He's not been low floor. He's double-digit targets every week, and he's rightfully the highest owned wide receiver, and I agree with it. And Burns, I agree with you. Like, how do you not love AJ Brown and Devontae Smith? And I love them both. Mm-hmm. I think Slim Reaper, the same way that Chase is getting more volume most weeks, if you look at least the last 4 weeks, Smith has definitely been the more targeted guy. And I got to credit DFS Up North on this. He has been all over this trend. I mean, he made a bold call to say Smith is better than AJ Brown, and he's been saying it all year. We got to give credit where it's due. He's been saying it all year, and we're kind of like, yeah, right. And then we're kind of like, I think so. And then by a few weeks ago, I'm going, yeah, dude, I'm on board with that. I think you're right. So, AJ Brown, legitimately, Smith has higher draft capital. He was taken earlier in the NFL draft, not the same year, but earlier. Mm-hmm. So higher draft capital. So I love that trio as well. One thing I was talking myself into is T. Higgins, a.k.a. Higgy Smalls here. Listen, Higgins has been ruining lineups for a while now. I think you got to ignore it, and you go right back to it. feel the same way about Juju. It's actually these guys fall in little categories, but like, what are you going to do? Not play Higgins? You got to play him.
Yeah.
Burrow stacks. Higgins. You want to pick two. Hurst, Higgins, Chase. Boyd is always ruining lineups too. Boyd comes through once every 8 games or so. You got about a 1 in 8 shot of a 15 plus with Boyd. He does it twice a year. This is multiple seasons. Could be today. Higgins does it like once every 4 games. 25% shot.
Yeah, Higgins screwed me out of $70K on a parlay last weekend. So
listen, you know what? You knew the risks going in. You had a 1 in 4 shot.
I had 3 out of the 4 legs, and he was my 4th leg to hit, and he didn't fucking hit. I'm like, you bastard.
BobbyWow. Make some sense of this wide receiver group for me here. There's not that many to choose from. We've got our 3 studs. I think Deebo Samuel is a bit of the odd man out. For me, tough matchup. Needs a touchdown probably via the run. But yeah. I'm not playing him,
Yeah,
I
think that's it. I mean, I mentioned earlier, I'm getting different at the running back position. That's where I'm going to get unique. It's tough for me to take stands on these guys, especially these guys up top. I think Jamar Chase has a good path. AJ Brown, great spot for him and Smith. I fully agree. I think Deebo is the weakest of the 4, but I don't know that I'm like way over on anybody up there or way under. Pretty even.
I love that Ash Larry is up at 3 a.m. in like Great Britain or somewhere. Just like watching.
Oh, that makes my heart smile.
It's awesome. Moving, Juju Smith-Schuster, by the way, is another one. But note something. So some of these names, I'm going to go back to T. Higgins. 2 weeks ago, T. Higgins, we were paying $7,200 for this guy. 2 weeks ago. Not like a month. 70. This was a 7K player. And we're like, okay.
So was Deebo.
Yeah. Deebo as well. We're all like, okay, we'll pay it. And now we're looking now how the mighty hath fallen. But similarly with Juju was up in the 6K range. Now we've had like 4 or 5 weeks in a row of 2 or 3 targets. It's like 2 target Juju, ruining your lineup, just making it bad again. Mabba, make America bad again. No, making lineups Malba. All right, I don't know. I tried. It was impromptu. He's been ruining lineups, but now, a couple of these guys, like I was like, I'm not playing that turd. And then I'm like, wait a minute. He's now 4,700. Like, oh, well, now I'm interested in the turd. And I feel like the whole group really, like this whole group down, it's like, oh, Ayuk, I'm not playing. Oh, wait a minute. He's only 4,400.
Mm-hmm.
This is a group. BobbyWow, they just need to get us 12 fantasy points.
Yeah, but honestly, Geek, this is why I go back and forth with unchecking Purdy. Because if the quarterbacks don't score well and Purdy puts up a decent score, you're talking about the difference between Juju Smith-Schuster and AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. That's the difference. That's a big difference. So yeah, these guys stink. Juju stinks. He's had 3 good games all season, maybe 4 if you really stretch it. He hasn't been good. I mean, these guys, Ayuk has had some big games. Terrible matchup. But I don't know. Burns, are you excited about anyone down in this range?
No, I'm not really. And now that Hardman is coming back, it takes the luster off of Tony as well.
I'm not allowing Hardman to ruin my Tony luster. Hell no, Burns. No.
I'm just saying the luster comes off a bit on him.
No.
Or it actually lowers his ownership to the point where he could be the slate breaker.
The problem with a little luster coming off of Tony is that means he has no luster left. So
7 targets last week. 7 targets for Kadarius. He is the WR1 at this point.
Jeez.
He gets the most looks. He gets the most targets on the team.
We can't say WR1 with Kelsey on the team.
Kelsey, Tony.
Yeah, but what did Tony get? What did Tony?
What
was his final score last week?
Only thing that matters is volume, Burns.
I know, but what was his final score? Was it 10? Flat?
It was 10, which, by the way, fine by me. But it's hard to get 7 targets and only 10 fantasy points. That's a feat in its own regard. But all that we care about is volume. I do not care what they do with the volume. Yeah, it's 2 games. Last week, if you just played the Gainwell play that BobbyWow is pushing, you won. So that worked out. But you're right. Listen, we're talking through strategies that you were going to enter a lot of lineups with. So effectively, what you want to do is just, where am I going above the field or below the field? Like I said, I talked to Statsational. He is effectively one of the top 5-10 players in the world. And ask him, what's your approach to this? And he says, I'm just looking at sort of the ownership, and I'm choosing certain players to go above and certain to below, and I hope it all works out. And it's kind of like, all right, and if that works, great. So with that being said, I think you've got a whole group of players here that we're just like kind of hoping for. Even Zach Pascal, 1 catch, 1 reception for a touchdown, and he's in the winning lineup. All of these guys. So how do we play that, Burns? Like Watson, Quez, these guys will get you a 0. Jawan Jennings, horrible matchup. Could not be worse. Valdez-Scantling, we know what he does. 1 catch, wins you the tournament. More often than not, he doesn't get it. Do we just mix these guys in and cross our fingers and just be like, yo, I hope I get the right one?
Yeah, I mean, you almost are. It's almost like it's close your eyes and pick one almost when you're down this low, or freaking rub the leprechaun's nuts together and see if it actually strikes a pot of gold for you. I don't, these guys they're very hit or miss, and we wouldn't even be looking at these guys on a main slate more often than not. But on 2-game slate like this, we need to be in this range as well. So, I mean, Trent Irwin could even pop one off in the end zone where, Burrow connects with him on 1 pass in the end zone for 20 yards, touchdown, boom. Now you got what, 3, 9, and he's at
that's the nuts
3,000. There you go. There's your nuts play.
BobbyWow, do you have a favorite down here? I looked at Quez and Zach Pascal. They were sort of splitting that WR3 spot at this point for the Eagles. So I think even Zach Pascal, but do you have a favorite down here?
It's Quez for me, and the other guy I'm interested in is Justin Watson. Justin Watson is a guy that can make a big play. We've seen it before, and he found himself on the field a ton last week, from what I remember. I want to say he was, and I could be getting this wrong, but I want to say he was on the field for like 50% of the snaps. So that's a big deal. I think he's a good player, and him at 3K, I'll take that. Somebody who's on the field with Patrick Mahomes, who's going to be needing to throw the football. Yeah, I think I'm intrigued by him.
Yeah. I think you don't want to get too crazy with like the Sky Moores. I don't think I'm going to have any of that. But are there any that we can eliminate? So I think Trent Irwin, I'll give him a couple of points, percentage points. Ray, probably not. Watson, fine. I think I might fade Jawan Jennings.
Yep.
The matchup is bad. I don't think that's going to get me there. And I not using that quarterback. I think this player in particular, this cheapie, is very much tied to your quarterback. So like, I think the easiest way to work it out would be, Pascal and Quez probably in my Hurts lineups. Tony, standalone viable. Valdez-Scantling probably standalone viable as well. But like a Quez or a Watson is probably in my Mahomes lineup.
They're all standalone for me on a 2-gamer.
Yeah, Boyd. I think I'm favor Boyd with Burrow as well. But yeah, you're right. There are scenarios where it doesn't really matter. Like I said, you catch the guy down here that does something. The only reason that these guys are less exciting for me is because there's actual players who will be on the field that are not that much more expensive.
Right.
Like this zone here, like, you know, Tony and Valdez-Scantling are actually pretty much starting for their team, as is Boyd and Juju, and they're like not that much more than 3K. So you might not need these turds at the bottom.
And that's the thing. Again, I hate coming back to it, but the Purdy thing, like you're talking the difference between Juwan Jennings and T. Higgins. That's huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's messy.
The Purdy thing works exclusively. It's just so unlikely, but it works only if all the quarterbacks kind of have a shitty day.
It was a 0% chance for me because of this situation. I'm at like a 1%. I still don't like it. I'm still fading him. I'm just saying there's reason.
Because you mentioned Birdie too many times now. I'm starting to think it's like a Gainwell situation.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Let's clarify that. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, Mateo, you know, like I said, let's not get too crazy with these 3K super turds when like non-super turds are right here and they're not that different in price. So, all right.
Yet another reason to get unique at running back because they don't have to worry about that zone.
I love the tight ends on the slate, guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, since I don't like the running backs and I do like the tight ends, I see a lot of double tight end for me personally.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I like it. I like pass catchers in the flex on DraftKings anyway. So right from the top, I mean, Travis Kelce, no money last week. I mean, it was like you came out of game 1 last week. A couple of people asked me, like, dude, I didn't play Kelce, but I got all these other spots. I said, you're not winning the tournament this week. Just you didn't win. It's okay.
You might cash, but
yeah, I don't care about cashing. But by the way, to answer your question, AW asked me before about stats. He only enters giant field. He does not play single entry or care about that format at all. He's only attacking tournaments. He doesn't.
Sensational.
Yeah, he does not play like lineups for he doesn't. A lot of these other guys, they play like 5K, 10K entries against like 5 people in these monster. He doesn't do that. He's only playing in giant tournaments. So with that being said, the Bengals figured out Kelce pretty well last year in the playoffs. They bracketed him. Could they pull it off again here, Burns? Could they do it? Could they do it again? They're going to be throwing to Kelce no matter what. But could the Bengals sort of like, we're going to stop this guy and make him beat us elsewhere and just focus double teaming Kelce, drop the defensive end back. You can't cover Kelce with a linebacker. You need a safety on him, and you need somebody underneath. Could they do that to us here? Or is the playoffs, teams are going to throw to their stud, and even if they're pulling that shit, Mahomes will find a way to get it to him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you can't fade right now in the playoffs. He's just too valuable of a roster spot. Somebody asked me earlier in DMs, who do you roster? Do you roster Kelce or Chase? And I was like, that's a really difficult question to ask because Kelce is he's just a beast. But that being said, Cincinnati has had his number in the past, their defense. And, you know, we may see he could potentially, I'm not saying he's going to, but he could potentially be limited to less than what we see a normal Kelce blow-up game. So 35 points last week, he might be 25 this week. So I'm just saying that's how it might go. I'm not saying it's going to go that way, though.
BobbyWow, what are your thoughts here? Kelce projecting at 50% ownership.
Yeah, I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. He shows up for the playoffs. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes show up for the playoffs. Even looking back to Travis Kelce against the Bengals last season. 11 targets, 10 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. That does it right there. So I am not going underweight on Travis Kelce.
But the real question is I can't imagine going underweight. Field weight or overweight? Can you go all in?
I will be overweight on Kelce. I'll probably be in the 70 to 80% range.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear. So that's what I want to hear.
And Goddard is in a great spot too. I could see a lot of Kelce Goddard lineups this week. I think you're going to see that. That is the two. If you're going to see it in the flex, you're going to see Kelce in the flex, or you're going to see Goddard in the flex, and Kelce will be in the tight end spot, vice versa.
So, last week I was shitting on Hayden Hurst.
He had a good week last week.
I believe I referred to him as hate him worst.
Something like that.
And I said at the same time, because I'm shitting on this guy, he's definitely going to have a big game. But here's the thing, and he did have a fine, acceptable performance. But also, let's not go crazy. He had the same 5 or 6 targets that he gets every single week. But he gets 5 or 6 targets. When you add a touchdown in there, it goes from an 8 or 9 to a 16, and that's just how it goes, right? I expect more of the same for Hayden Hurst, which is fine for 3K. Not super sexy, but it's fine for the price, and definitely a lot better. And this is so. You talk about those crapola wide receivers. Hayden Hurst is pretty locked into 5 targets, where all of those junk wide receivers for 3K, where all those junk wide receivers that we just talked about, we're probably looking at 1 or 2 targets at most.
Yeah. Yep.
Hurst is definitely a better play than most or all of those guys. But
agreed.
You're giving up your flex spot. You're giving up Kittle or Goddard.
Yeah.
Tough situation. By the way, the reason I don't think that going 80% or 75-80, I think as I start to think through the math and the Tetris of the lineup construction, you might note that, okay, let me give you a 2 for, and I don't like two for 2s, BobbyWow, but let me throw this at you because I want to get you thinking about this a little bit. All right, you can play Kelsey, and you can play Kelsey and and Goddard in the flex. Let's say you use Kelsey and Goddard.
Okay,
but because of that, instead of Devontae Smith, because you're paying up for Kelsey, you've got to go to Juju Smith-Schuster. So how about you going either Kelsey and Schuster, or let's say Goddard and Devontae Smith? Do you see the see the sort of scenario there?
I do. I still am riding with Kelsey. I don't think there's like a sure enough wide receiver to me where it's like, I know this guy is going to get 12 targets. He's going to get pounded with the football. So, Kelsey's that guy on the slate. He's the surefire guy on the slate to me. And because I'm getting unique at running back and paying down, I don't think I'll have that dilemma as much as other people might. So Kelsey is like, he's a rock for me.
Burns, your thoughts on that scenario? It's why I'm not going to have more than 50% of them. Any one player. I believe in the global max. I'm going to have it that way. So,
wait, I got to address Paul and Boat's question. Paul and Boat, my man, we do. Right here. Go to DFSArmy.com. You want a free subscription? Go to DFSArmy.com. Going to click on free offer right here. Right? That's going to take you to our free offer page. It'll get you a month of DFS Army free. Oh, went blank on me right now, but usually it works, where you'll have a bunch of things to click on. So basically it's sign up for any of our partner companies, Monkey Knife Fight, Prize Picks, all those great sites. And by the way, and I don't even know if you guys know this, we did just launch our prop game subscription. So we have an incredible tool for Prize Picks and Underdog that compares their odds to the sportsbook odds and to our projections, shows you the difference, shows you the EV. It's spectacular. And, for people who want to keep their shit going after the NFL season, but you don't necessarily want to make lineups or mess with DraftKings and swim with the sharks, we've got Will Lynn and now Sniper giving out Prize Picks plays and Underdog plays right in the side. They're crushing it. I think these guys, all they do is this, and they're really, really good at it. So, if you want a free offer, check out the free offer page, get a free month DFS Army. Follow the instructions on that page. And then, of course, oh, man, Ash Larry. But you have regular sports books in UK. You can just play the props. We got the props tool here as well, my man. So, anyway, all right, getting back into it. Bam. Hitting on the props tonight. I love it.
My hope is that I hope Philly takes note of what Dallas did last week. The writing was on the wall on how Dallas could beat San Francisco via the pass. It was over the middle with CeeDee Lamb and
You
Schultz.
Called it on the show.
Long. And I hope Philly takes a note of this out of the playbook of Dallas. And I hope they drop down A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith into the slot this weekend and have Goddard and Smith or Brown just light them up over the middle. Because San Francisco, if you do that against San Francisco with Jalen Hurts being a running quarterback, you're going to destroy San Francisco in this game.
I think I will do predictions of who wins the games and little bets at the end here. So guys, stick around for that. We'll do our predictions and our against the spread play. We don't normally do that, but we'll add that in for this one. So going back to the quarterback, do we need to go beyond? I say no, but do we need to go beyond the big four tight ends here?
I'll have a sprinkling of Noah Gray, but otherwise no.
Yeah, I might do the same with Noah, but otherwise nobody else.
Yeah, I agree. If I guess if you needed to force one, it would be Gray. He does get a target here or there. That's about it. 2,500. So that savings is cool, but I think you stick with the big four. I think Hurst is playable as well.
Oh yeah,
but the one guy I think might go overlooked is George Kittle.
Mm-hmm.
The ownership isn't reflecting that.
He won't go overlooked.
I think if I look at the projection, so to be clear, because the projection really does drive ownership, the projection is low for Kittle. Like he won't show up in lineups unless you force it. Like I'm talking about the points projection, not the ownership projection. Like his actual points total here is significantly lower than Goddard, who's much cheaper. So but Kittle has had a nice connection with Purdy, so I think you got to force him into your lineup so you can't not use him.
Yeah, the Eagles have been so good against tight ends. Oh man, so good.
They're number 2. I mean, they're right. You cannot throw. The Eagles Philadelphia has not been a place to go to throw. And by the way, let me add another factor to the mix here. This is a San Francisco team coming from a place of beautiful weather year round. Bikini girls walking around on the street, dodging freaking homeless people and poops in the street too. But bikini chicks and poops all over the place in San Francisco. But it's all in this mix of beautiful weather. Now they're coming to Philly. Streets equally mean, but it's cold. And it might be snowy, or it might be, last week we didn't even know it was going to snow in Buffalo. All of a sudden, it's like a freaking snow game. Like, how do we not know this? Why was this not a thing? So, it's ugly in Philly, and San Francisco's a fair weather team. Does that affect anything here? Does that give a greater advantage to a team like the Eagles, who, hey, we're used to playing in Philly, nasty environment, cold, and the warm weather team comes and they're just not used to it. It's not that cold, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it looks like 45 or 50 degrees and sunny. I'm not super concerned about the weather, but I think I am a little bit concerned about the West Coast to East Coast thing. So you're talking about a 3-hour difference. What time's the game? 3:00.
Yeah, it's
not a
huge
game. Timing thing.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. There's something about that irks me a little bit. So I don't know. I'm not in love with the 49ers anyway, so I don't need more reasons. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just they're not that used to ugly weather. Not that it matters that much, but I want to throw that in there. All right. Yeah. Let's just talk defense selections here real quick. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about defense because it's pretty random, but Bengals, I like Bengals. I like Bengals defense for the cheapest. I think the Eagles are my second favorite. And I am not I'm not a big fan of Chiefs defense here. I think 49ers would be my third. How do you guys have it broken down? I'll just go around. Burns, you're the defense master.
Yeah, every lineup I've been making so far, I'm defaulting to Cincinnati, not because they're the cheapest, but they have I think they have the best defense to put up the most amount of DraftKings points this week. They've done it multiple times this year where they've been in the double digits. So I really like how their defense scores points from a fantasy perspective. So I do like them. I do agree with your order. I like Philly next, and San Francisco, and then KC.
I mean, it's easy to sleep on San Francisco, BobbyWow, but they are a good actual real life defense, so you can't super sleep on them, even though they're on the road. I know the Shark Lab don't like road defenses, underdogs. That cannot be something. But BobbyWow, do you care? How do you deal with the defense situation?
Yeah, I look, for me, I think it starts with the Eagles. I think Brock Purdy, hostile environment, a rookie quarterback. He's looked good. He's exceeded expectations in every way. But if this was to come crashing down for him, it feels like this would be the situation. So I'm Eagles first, and then I agree, Bengals, 49ers, and then Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, the Chiefs can do it too, by the way. And then with all that being said, any one of these defenses could pick up a fumble and take it back in, or,
Yeah, that's a good clarification. I'm not like 50-60% on a defense. I'll have all four, but
yeah, get a little bit of 4, but you probably like 40, 30, 20, 10, something like that, where you want to scale it a little bit. That's about it. So, all right, to finish this one up, guys. Number one, I'm going to go around. Give me your favorite sneaky play on the slate, just across the board. Who's your guy that you're kind of a little sneaky on? Everybody loves the BobbyWow sneaky play. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but give me your favorite sneaky play on the slate. Just, who is that player that you're going to be a little bit above the field on? Who's that Kenny Gainwell of this week, BobbyWow? It's Kenny Gainwell. No, who is that Kenny Gainwell? Is it Kenny? Maybe it's Kenny Gainwell.
It might be Kenny Gainwell. I like Kenny Gainwell a lot. And I think, again, running back position, don't sleep on Pacheco. He's not as sneaky. And don't sleep on Samaje Perine. So
there we go.
It's sneaky plays, Kenny G's and Perine, and then Pacheco.
And guys, drop your sneaky play. Those of you guys watching, drop your sneaky play in the comments section.
No, don't do that. Don't do the 85%. Jeez.
I mean, listen, a lot of people do this, and that's fine. How about you, Burns? Who's your sneaky play of this one? Paulin Boats likes Boyd.
Ooh, I don't know if I can get on board with that, but I mean I'm in the same boat with Bobby. I really do like the RBs that he listed this week. They're great, but I honestly think the sneaky play is stacking in a different way. Don't just go and stack one way and just make sure it's that way. Like, I love the trio of receivers with Hurts. I think that's a sneaky play where it might not be utilized as much as you think it's going to be. And then just let Gainwell fall in place there. So that's kind of how I'm going to approach it.
For me, it's going to be Kadarius Toney. I don't understand why he's 15% projected. 7 targets last week. I actually do think he kind of emerged as the top target for Mahomes, and I'm not scared of hard man. So for me, it's Kadarius Toney. But I love your choices too. And Gainwell, I'll have some of that. I think the other thing, but it's not sneaky, was we all kind of agreed not loving Sanders. So I think we're all in agreement on that one.
I like the Toney call. I do. You've sold me.
There it is. That's all it took. A little bit of convincing. 7 targets. Like, he tripled the next guy. So, all right. Against the spread picks, boys. We don't normally do this on this show, but I got the Sharp app, Sharp.app, up on screen here. And I'd like to talk to you about your against spread picks. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I've already bet both of these games. I like the Eagles. I like the Bengals. I don't know if that's too chalky, it's lame, or whatever. But not only do I like both of those teams, I like the idea of what I'm calling America's teaser. America's teaser worked 2 weeks ago, and I'm going right back to it. Remember that Saturday slate where we teased both games? Boom, easy money. I'm teasing both of these games together. I'm taking them direct against the spread anyway. I like Philly -2.5. I think Philly wins the game at home. I think the Bengals win this game. They do it again. Unless Mahomes shocks the world and comes out healthy, in which case anybody's game. That part is fucking me up. Supreme confidence in the Eagles, though, for me. So how about you, Bobby Wow?
I'm going Eagles. I'm going Chiefs.
Chiefs.
And I'm going Chiefs. Yeah, and I'm going unders in both of the games.
Okay, there it is, the unders. Burns, you got a bet on any bets you want to put out there?
I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles is the pick of that game. I think Cincinnati comes into Arrowhead and they're going to be in the Super Bowl, and Cincinnati takes the whole thing down this year.
There it is. All right, I love the stuff, guys. All right, we're keeping it going. Not next week, but in 2 weeks, we'll be back. We'll get the crew back together. We're already going to be like, oh, is football still going? Oh, yeah, there's one more game. So, but we've got a big weekend this weekend. I call it the last real slate to attack. I'll be going max on Fanduel, max on DraftKings, going crazy. We've got 2 showdowns as well. The showdown breakdown, the notes for all of that is available for DFS Army subscribers. DFS Up North broke it down. So we got we got our captains, all that good stuff. The cheat sheets ready to go. My cheat sheet for this slate ready to go. But if you just listen through the show, that's all you really need. You don't even need the cheat sheet. But most people don't. So they like this sheet. Check it out. Dom Station, locked, loaded. Helmets up, guys. I'm wishing everybody best of luck this week. Let's go out with a bang. Let's take some more tournaments down. Take some more of that cash from DraftKings and FanDuel. Represent. Make it a great 2022 NFL season. I think it's been awesome already. We had $1 million winner week 1. It seems like forever ago.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
We had we had a second place in the Millie Maker a couple weeks later. Countless takedowns. This has been a spectacular season. Remember the week of Christian Watson and Garrett Wilson, that crazy core play week that they both went nuts. It's been a pretty special year. So I'm excited, man. GOAT calls week after week from BobbyWow and Burns here. Like, it's been ridiculous. If you guys have enjoyed the show, I would ask you, like, subscribe, do all those things that let us know that you're out there, that you like this. So we'll bring it back for next year. Me and Burns already in hot negotiations about a Millie Maker Shark Lab show.
Yeah, buddy.
It's going behind the paywall, motherfuckers.
Contract extension talks there with Burnsy as well.
Going behind the paywall. All right. So anyway, good luck this weekend, everyone. We'll see you guys next time. Deuces.